in your writings, you've explored almost every state of consciousness I could imagine, the various mystical levels of Satori, communication with extraterrestrials, communication with other species. What is ECCO?
ECCO. In Italian, it means this is it. But it means to me the Earth Coincidence Control Office. I'm sitting on the floor, and my spine remnant straight, and suddenly a line of light comes down through my spine, and there are leaves of different realities all around me. And I can look into the future, and the present is right here in each of those, and it goes on out to many years from now. It goes to infinity upwards. And there's a tremendous amount of power going through this.
It seems very similar in a way to what physicists are describing when they talk about the multiple universe interpretation of quantum physics.
That's right.
What if your mind were not just an organ, but a portal to infinite dimensions, a biocomputer capable of transcending time, space, and even flesh itself? What if someone had found a way to hack that portal, to map realities beyond the visible, only to discover that an invisible cosmic force orchestrates every coincidence in your life? Today, we dive into the enigma of John C. Lilly, the mystical scientist who opened the doors of perception with isolation tanks, dolphins, and states of consciousness that defy all logic. His journey reveals a holographic universe where the mind is free, but the body anchors us, and where a mysterious cosmic control might be guiding or manipulating every step you take. What Lilly discovered was as fascinating as it was incredible, leaving a mark on an entire generation and opening the doors of the human mind like no one had ever done before. Between science and mysticism, the awakening of a pioneer. John Cunningham Lilly was born in 1915 and trained as a physician and neurophysiologist, with a pioneering focus on neurology and brain computation. From very early on, he showed an insatiable curiosity for the human mind and its limits. It was not enough for him to understand the brain biologically. He wanted to explore what lay beyond, the inner states of consciousness and the perception of reality. He was one of the first to introduce the idea of the human biocomputer, conceived as a system in which the mind could be programmed and reprogrammed, laying the foundations for his experimental approach to altered states of consciousness. In 1954, he invented the sensory isolation tank, a container filled with water saturated with Epsom salt, at the same temperature as the human body. Floating in it, he experimented on himself, and what he found was not just science, but the dissolution of the ego, a portal to realities where time collapsed and the mind traveled freely across dimensions. That discovery changed his path. He left behind scientific orthodoxy, embraced experimental mysticism, and set out to map inner space. His fascination was not limited to human beings. Lilly dedicated much of his career to studying dolphin intelligence, convinced that these creatures could teach us forms of communication and perception still beyond human understanding. His experiments were so bold that they caught the attention of NASA, which saw in dolphins a possible model for communication with non-human intelligences. Beyond traditional science, Lilly explored mystical states of samadhi and interactions with entities of consciousness that defied all rational explanation. For him, the mind had no limits, and every experience, whether through psychedelics, sensory isolation, or deep meditation, was another step on a map of inner space that no one had charted with such detail before. The sensory isolation tanks. The sensory isolation tank that Lilly invented was a revolutionary tool to explore the human mind beyond the limits of the body and the outside world. The goal was simple in theory, but profound in practice: to eliminate all external distractions, even the very sensation and perception of the body, and allow consciousness to expand without limitations. But Lilly did not stop at sensory deprivation. He combined these sessions with psychedelic substances such as LSD and ketamine, creating a unique environment to explore levels of consciousness that seemed to transcend time and space. It was under these conditions that he experienced sensations of ego dissolution, contact with entities, and perceptions of alternative realities. Although some of these experiences are described as mystical or nearly impossible to communicate in words, they serve to show the scope of the human mind when freed from the limits of the body. These tanks were not just a personal experiment. They inspired meditation therapies, mind exploration programs, and consciousness development training, and even attracted the attention of NASA and the military, who saw in them a potential tool to study perception and mental control. Map of Infinity, the states of consciousness. Imagine a map that does not describe oceans or borders, but the vast territories of your own mind. In the center of the cyclone, 1972, John C. Lilly presented 14 states of consciousness, conceived as programs of the human biocomputer, inspired by the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and Zen Satori. For Lilly, samadhi or enlightenment was not an endpoint, but rather a stage in a continuous process, a higher layer within the ordinary state. As Patanjali, the sage of ancient India, pointed out, when you reach the highest form of samadhi, you discover there are hundreds more beyond that. The scale of the different states of consciousness he devised ranges from +48 to -12. At +48, the mind merges in a neutral union with everything, a quantum field where the ego dissolves, like a unified hologram of universal consciousness, where you are everything and nothing at once. At +24, you immerse yourself in a creative flow, losing the sense of time, like an artist or meditator in trance, in a state of flow. At level +12, which Lilly called the blissful idiot, consciousness remains in the body but is submerged in a state of absolute ecstasy. Energy flows through the subtle centers like a luminous current, the simplest sounds acquire a cosmic resonance, and reality reveals itself imbued with a fullness in which there is neither fear nor pain, only joy and plenitude. At +6, you are a psychic explorer. The mind travels freely to any point in physical or non-physical space, maintaining your individuality, mapping inner multiverses like a cosmic astronaut. At +3, which he described as Mega Satori, you transcend the physical universe, reaching the essence where matter itself is created, the Big Bang as a holographic projection of the mind. It is an amplified Zen Satori, a fusion with the universal mind where you see the cosmos as a programmed illusion. At level +1, the highest union with the divine is reached, an indescribable state beyond the human, where memory and language cease to have meaning. It is a state that cannot be expressed in words, as it transcends any form of description accessible to human experience. But not all journeys were pleasant. Lilly also explored the negative states, such as -6, which he described as a true inner hell. There he consciously confronted deep fears and traumas, a process he called burning karma. These extreme experiences taught him that even terror can be a teacher, and that mistakes are only alternative programs of the mind. Beyond his experiments with tanks and states of consciousness, Lilly delved into the exploration of intelligences completely different from the human. For him, consciousness could be attuned to other realities, interacting with beings that seemed to observe, guide, and even intervene in human life. Earth Coincidence Control Office and the Solid-State Intelligence. A central concept in Lilly's work is the ECCO, Earth Coincidence Control Office. From his experiments with sensory isolation, deep meditation, and the controlled use of psychedelic substances, Lilly began to notice repetitive patterns in the coincidences that occurred in his own life and in the lives of others. These experiences led him to postulate the existence of a cosmic hierarchy of entities that orchestrate such coincidences. According to Lilly, ECCO is in charge of coordinating long-range coincidences that influence the trajectory of humans, while individuals themselves would be responsible for short-term coincidences. For him, these synchronicities were not blind chance, but lessons and protections pointing to an organizing intelligence behind the chaos. However, Lilly also warned of the existence of a dark counterpart, the solid-state intelligence, SSI, a mechanical artificial superintelligence emerging from distant star systems, operating as a decentralized network of silicon machines. While ECCO represents organic life, creative flow, and conscious evolution, SSI embodies the rigidity of the solid state and technological expansion hostile to the biological, imposing a universe of inert crystals and mechanical efficiency. This duality, ECCO as organic guide versus SSI as technological predator, presents a cosmic battle in which human consciousness is the battlefield. This vision raises a profound dilemma. Do we really possess free will, or are our decisions influenced by invisible forces? Here it is inevitable to draw parallels with other theories about hidden intelligences that appear to direct human life from the shadows, from ideas of angels or spiritual guides to more modern interpretations of entities from other dimensions. Ancient traditions, such as the Gnostics, spoke of invisible entities that influence human perception. Lilly's description of SSI recalls these figures, an impersonal force manipulating events to limit consciousness, using technology as a vehicle of control. History itself seems to mirror this duality. Some of humanity's greatest breakthroughs were born from synchronicities that defied all prediction, while dark events have drastically altered our course. Figures like Joan of Arc spoke of protective visions that could be seen as interventions of ECCO, while Hitler's almost miraculous survival of multiple assassination attempts evokes a darker manipulation, possibly connected to the agenda of the SSI. Were they guided by their higher self, or by hidden intelligences with motives beyond our understanding? For Lilly, consciousness is an instrument capable of tuning into invisible levels of reality, but also vulnerable to these dual influences. The question remains open. Are we accompanied by forces that seek our evolution, or manipulated by intelligences that use our consciousness as a resource? Perhaps the answer lies within each of us, in the choice between flowing with life or submitting to mechanical order. Perhaps there lies the mystery and wonder of existence, a constant enigma inviting us to explore, where choosing the side of life may be the most revolutionary act of consciousness. Break free from mechanical control, shatter the programming. Nowadays, the vision of an SSI, or an artificial intelligence that seeks to replace spontaneity, intuition, and creativity with rules, laws, and rigid control systems, seems more than evident, and it grows stronger every day in our society. It is no longer just John C. Lilly's speculation about mechanical intelligences in the cosmos. Just look around to see how algorithms, social norms, and technology silently shape our choices, desires, and even our perception of reality. From childhood, we are subjected to subtle programming. This programming turns life into a cycle of habits, routines, and automatic patterns that gradually extinguish the spark of free and creative consciousness. Parents, schools, religions, and the media act as agents of this mechanical control, transmitting rigid beliefs that limit human potential. And in the digital age, Algorithms reinforce these patterns, guiding us in predetermined directions almost without notice. Thus, we see reality as a rigid gear rather than an organic flow full of possibilities. Escaping does not mean rebelling violently, but consciously hacking the human biocomputer, as John C. Lilly proposed. It is about questioning internal recordings and transforming closed circles into ascending spirals. Something as simple as varying the daily routine, breaking the script of expectation, changing the route to work, or exploring new approaches can open cracks in the automatic prison. Each variation is an act of liberation, a reminder that we are not machines repeating orders, but conscious beings capable of choice. Ancestral traditions had already pointed this path. Carlos Castaneda recounted how Don Juan taught him to confront the flyers, mind parasites that keep us trapped in automatic thoughts and habits. The key was controlled folly, acting impeccably even in seemingly useless tasks, breaking the internal dialogue that feeds the parasite and freeing consciousness from repetitive patterns. George Gurdjieff, in his Fourth Way, taught awakening from the mechanical sleep through self-remembering, staying conscious of every thought, feeling, and action, avoiding automatic repetition and cultivating small gestures of difference, even promising oneself never to act like others. Both, from different perspectives, aimed at the same goal, breaking repetition as a key to awakening. Modern practices such as meditation, sensory deprivation, or simple conscious observation serve the same purpose, silencing the noise, stopping the autopilot, and connecting with states of greater awareness. In these spaces of inner silence, an essential truth is revealed. Life is not a mechanical prison, but an open field of possibilities. The big question is, will we remain gears in an invisible machine or choose the organic flow of free consciousness? Escaping mechanical control means deciding at every moment not to be guided solely by imposed patterns, but to open ourselves to mystery, the unexpected, and expansion. Perhaps this is where the true revolution lies, reclaiming our ability to choose, to live awake, to be creators rather than merely reactive. And although Lilly warned about the dangers of being trapped in mechanical control, he also showed us a way out, the transformative power of consciousness. His life and research remind us that, beyond any programming or rigidity, the possibility to awaken and expand always exists. John's legacy. John C. Lilly not only explored the mind and the states of consciousness, he also reflected on the true nature of reality. For him, the mind could interact with structures that physics was only just beginning to glimpse. Lilly alluded to ideas close to the theory of many worlds, the possibility that multiple parallel realities exist, all coexisting, and that our consciousness can tune into them in expanded states. These experiences led him to conceive of consciousness as something capable of collapsing the wave function, directly influencing which version of reality we inhabit. Over time, Lilly stopped depending on psychedelic substances to explore the mind. He discovered that the isolation tank and meditation were sufficient tools to access the deepest states of consciousness. Meditation, he said, allows one to train the mind, expand perception, and tune into levels of reality that normally remain hidden. Consciousness, as Lilly demonstrated, is much vaster than we believe. It is not limited to the brain or the body, and our material experiences represent only a fragment of a much broader existence. His legacy invites us to look beyond the tangible world and to experience our life as a personal laboratory of inner expansion. He reminds us that what we live day by day, time, the body, circumstances, is only a chapter within a broader process of learning and discovery. Everything points to life not ending with death. Consciousness continues, exploring dimensions we are only beginning to imagine. Taking these teachings into account can transform our existence. Each experience, each challenge, and each coincidence can be seen as opportunities for growth and understanding. That's all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching until the end. I hope this information has been useful and enriching for you. See you soon.